Welcome back to Podcast Recovery, everyone. We are your hosts, David O.
And Carly R.
And today we are joined by our very special guest, Dara. How are you doing today?
I am good. Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Good. Awesome. Where are you from, Dara?
I am from Reisterstown, Maryland.
Right.
Always lived here.
Nice. And when were you first introduced to recovery?
I was introduced to recovery in 2014. I was kind of, I was very much in denial that I was an addict, so I didn't really know much about being addicted to anything and the recovery process. So when I got clean, that was kind of my first, that was it.
All right.
First time.
And how long have you been clean?
My clean date's September 14th, 2014. So this coming September, I'll have 7 years.
Congratulations, lady.
Well, thank you.
Absolutely. And with all that out of the way, I'm going to turn it over to you to share your story with us. So take it away.
Okay. So like I said, I grew up in Reisterstown, Maryland, my entire life. I was adopted as a baby. I'm originally from Atlanta, Georgia. I don't really know much about my birth family, except that they were Southern Baptist, and I was the second child that my mother was pregnant with. And I was adopted to a Jewish family in Baltimore, so that's a very big change.
Yeah, I'd say so. Southern Baptist to Baltimore Jewish.
Southern Baptist Jew.
Southern Baptist Jew.
Very...
Wow. That's spectacular.
Yeah, it's very strange. So, I had a very loving family. As a child, I kind of had everything I wanted. I have an older brother. I had two loving parents. I was very sheltered. I was very sheltered. I went to a private school. I had friends. I went to dance class when I was little. But I really didn't learn about life at all. Everything was kind of like, I grew up with a mother that it mattered more of what I looked like, and my grades in school rather than having life experiences. I was kind of sheltered from the world. And I went to a Jewish day school until 8th grade. So I had never really been around people that weren't Jewish before, if that makes sense. So I was living that life. And then because I was dancing, I went to a Jewish, like I said, I went to Jewish high school, and then I went to Carver for high school. And
oh shit, you went to Carver?
My first date. Yeah.
In Towson area?
Yep, I went for dance.
Oh wow! I just installed all the security cameras up there.
Oh, you did?
Yes, I did.
I wasn't at that pretty nice new school though.
Oh, okay.
They've redone it.
Yeah,
they knocked ours down.
That place is fucking nice. Anyway, continue. You see,
you're like that when I was there.
All right, so you're at Carver.
So I got Carver. So I kind of just my first taste of reality. And at first, I didn't really hit the ground running. The summer between 8th grade and 9th grade, I experienced something in which my grandfather, who was very sick, very old, molested me. And I say that because I didn't remember. Mm-hmm. So in that summer, I must have just kind of just put it all the way down. I never talked about it. I never told anyone. And then he passed away, so I never brought it up ever again. And to jump forward really quickly, but when I had my first year clean, it resurfaced. And it kind of unraveled in crazy, first year of recovery, but I'll take that later. So in that whole time, that was my summer. I started, I tried alcohol, weed. Nothing really crazy. Mm-hmm. I graduated from high school, and then I went to a small private college in Pennsylvania called Muhlenberg. And I went there for dance and education. I wanted to be a teacher because my entire family were teachers. And, I tried everything. I was a garbage can. I did whatever I could because I wasn't around my family and they couldn't see me. They couldn't know what I was doing. And that's probably where I hit the ground running is my addiction. I didn't graduate from college, because growing up, I kind of had some, I blamed my outbursts, and my actions on mental health. So I had been in and out of therapy. But like my parents didn't know I was using drugs. So, in college, I kind of just used that. Like, I want to kill myself. I don't want to be here when I would struggle. And when shit would hit the fan and my parents would, let me come home. And eventually they just said, like, until you can get your mental health in order, you're just not going to go back to college. And I never went back ever to college. And I started working in restaurants, and I just lived that lifestyle, that lovely lifestyle of getting really fucked up.
There's no drugs in restaurants.
Yes, not at all. No temptation whatsoever. Nothing. And I kind of just did that, and I was barely living life like for myself. It was really all about the drugs for like 10 years. And like I said earlier, I was in denial. For me at that point, yes, I was working in a restaurant. Yes, I would sleep till 3. Yes, I was that person that would drive to work with a trash bag in their car because I was always the one throwing up while driving to get to work.
Oh, God.
And I just, it was really bad.
Yeah,
really
Carly's
bad.
laughing.
I mean, it's embarrassing, but it's also not. Like, that's how bad I was.
No, we get it. We get it.
Yeah, I know. After you throw up on your uniform like a couple more times, like, you learn to bring it back.
Yeah.
And I just thought that this was normal, and I was in my 20s, and like, this is going to be fine, and eventually I'll get out of it. And that's not what happened, and I just kept going. I kept getting fired. I ended up stealing from restaurants. I was actually really, really good at my job, and I would get these jobs where, I would move up the ladder really quickly, so I'd be in charge of money at night. And I would skim the money.
Of course.
And I didn't really get caught, because I would make things, I don't even know, but like in my mind, like, that was okay. Just because I wanted to get drugs, that was okay to skim off the top of this restaurant. That was okay, even though I got fired and now I have no money to go get drugs. And that's kind of where my life, kind of just went for like a year for downward spiral towards the end. I ended up, selling myself. I ended up doing things, living with a woman that like was in her 50s that I called mom. And she was essentially my drug dealer. And it was like in this house that was foreclosed, and she had like animals everywhere and piss everywhere. And like, that was fine. I was doing well.
Why have I never heard that part of your story before?
I don't know.
It seems like
I don't know why you haven't.
Seems like a crucial period.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes, I think I said it like my first or second year but like after a while, like I felt like, and I think Molly used to make fun of me. She'd be like, all right, I don't want to hear the mom story again.
That makes sense.
It was a huge part of my recovery because that's my last time using, and that's where kind of everything hit the fan. When I was living there. So I was living in Parkville with her there, and she was one of those women that went to pain management, and that's how, she kind of got what she needed and got what I needed. And there was one night, like, I didn't have any drugs. And I think my last day using, like, I didn't actually use that day because I was sick and I couldn't find anything. And I didn't have money. And I went to Walmart down the street just to get like Tylenol PM, just to like go to sleep because I was in so much pain. And I ended up getting pulled over on the way back with her and pulled out of the car and searched. And it turns out that, they had been watching her. They knew what she was doing. And I was kind of in this mix of, I became one of those people that they watched as well because I lived there. And at first I was just like, I don't know what you're talking about. I also was driving like on a suspended license. I had really no registration on my car, no car insurance. And even with the cop standing there in front of me, he was like, I know you don't have any of these things. I was like, yes, I do. Yes, I do. This is my car. I'll show it to you. Like, I just couldn't put the back down. I just wasn't ready to give it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I got put in a police car, and that's kind of where the first person kind of just kind of told me, like, we've been watching you. And she was a female officer, and she kind of was like, I know where you are. Like, obviously we know a little bit about your background. Like, you're a good kid. Like, you came from like a nice family. She was like, this isn't the life for you. Like, you shouldn't be here. And I kind of, that was it. I kind of was like, and then I knew what I had to do at that point to not go to jail. I said I was going to kill myself. And so they took me to a psych ward instead, thank God. And I was there for 2 weeks. And I still kind of wouldn't admit it. I was like kind of like halfway in, halfway out. I just took it as a break. Detox, all that fun stuff. And then, I got out and I tried to go back to the woman's house, and she, attempted to push me down steps and like get rid of me. She had sold all of my belongings when I was in, the psych ward for 2 weeks. And so I called 911 and I asked them to take me back to the psych ward because I had no one. I had no family left. She was my last person. I called her mom. I had nothing. And the cop was like, what are you going to do? And I said, just take me to the psych ward. And that was kind of the first time when I went back, I called my dad and I was like, I need help. He said, okay, thank you. I was just waiting for it, He had known. I mean, my dad knew. My mom was like so naive. She still doesn't even understand it. But my dad understood it. And he was like, all right, let's get you some help. I went to treatment for 28 days. I got told that if I was on maintenance, I was clean. And I was like, yes, this is wonderful. I'm clean. And I still can kind of feel a buzz. And like, this is great. And I went to a recovery house in Annapolis where it was acceptable. And I kind of just lived the same life, except I would go to meetings at night. I stole from the women. I got into a relationship with a woman, which I just did whatever I could just to feel some sort of love and attention.
Another part of the story I have not heard.
Really?
Yeah. I did not know you switched sides of the aisle temporarily.
I did. And there was like a time, like I think it was when I first moved into the recovery house in Baltimore County. And when I was like, this is not who I am. Like, I love women, but no, thank you.
Yeah.
It just wasn't my thing. And I was like, that's like for me, like that was one of the things when my disease was telling me, like, you want a woman, she's going to take care of you. But like, no, it wasn't my thing. I have nothing against it. That was. And yeah. So when I got kicked out of there, I moved back home with my mom, and my mom kind of put her foot down eventually. And she's like, she was like, you can't stay here long. Like, you just got to find somewhere else. So she would drive me to meetings because I had no car. She drove me to meetings, and I went to a women's meeting, and I met some women. And they said, I know of a recovery house. Got to get off your maintenance medication. Call us tomorrow. Like, you can come look at it. And I said, okay. And they said, well, we go to your doctor and start weaning yourself off. And I was like, oh yeah, sure. And then like a week later I called them. I was like, yeah, I'm off. Still going to show up in my system though, even though I really wasn't weaning, and I saved some and they let me move in because that's honest program. They thought I was being honest. I went in, I lived there for about 2 weeks. We all went to a meeting because I had a bad day. And when I got back, the house manager was like, you're high. Like, I saw you in the meeting, you're high. And I got kicked out. But the difference this time for me, I think the past couple of times when I would get kicked out, like, it was kind of like, you need to leave and like, we're never going to speak to you again. This time it was different. I got kicked out and they said, okay, well, you can move back in a week. I'm still going to come pick you up for meetings. And those women that I only knew for about 2 weeks kind of rallied around me and like showed me that there was a little bit of compassion, and they understood what I was going through instead of judging me for what I was going through and what I did. And for me, I think that was it. Like, that was when I surrendered, and I was like, you know what? Like, I can't do this anymore. I was like 28 and I had no money and nothing, and I had no family. And I was like, you know what? Like, I got to stop. Like, something's got to get different, you know? And so I lived in that house for a year. My first year in recovery was not fun, just because of everything that all of my past and everything that I had to deal with afterwards from actually getting honest about things, you know? And it was rough. It was a really rough year. But I stayed clean, you know? I stayed clean. And I stayed clean because there was someone behind me, you know, I got a sponsor, and I made all these connections with women, and like, some of those women are still in my life today. And, you know, I got through it instead of just giving up and just going back out. And that was huge for me. You know, I went to jail twice. I told my mom right before my first year about my grandfather. And it was her dad. And I was very scared, and she really wanted to support me, and she really wanted to be at my anniversary, and was like, listen, you're going to hear something, and I don't know if I'm ready to tell you, but I do know that you want to be there. And, you know, and so I told her before the meeting, and she said, and everything makes sense. And I was like, what just happened? She was like, it makes sense. She was like, it makes sense. That's when you started going off. Like, she was like, that was it. And it was like a huge sigh of relief to kind of like be understood by her, because her and I have had such like a tumultuous relationship since that age. To finally like have her say she understood why I was doing the things I was doing was like amazing for me. That feeling didn't last long, because I asked her not to share with the family, and being the lovely Jewish woman that she is and gossip queen, she told my entire family.
Yes, naturally.
Entire family, who already wasn't on my side to begin with. And I was, you know, yes, they weren't on my side to begin with, but it got so much worse. They just called me a junkie and an addict and a piece of shit, and how dare I drag his name through the dirt, and how dare I do this to them, and all this stuff. And it really sent me on a spiral. I was very close to relapsing, very close. And luckily, when I had found out that she had opened her mouth, I happened to be in a car coming back from a convention with my sponsor and my network. God was there when I found that out, because if not, I don't know what would have happened. And that's huge for me. You know, accepting that kind of, this is where I was and this is what happened, but like I was in a safe place, and I like thank God for that kind of moment every day. And, you know, things have gotten better since then with my family. It's still kind of a work in progress, but, you know, it is what it is. I have to, at first it was a hard time for me to accept that it's going to take time, because I wanted everything back right away. Like, I'm clean. Why am I not getting things back? Like, what do you mean? And once I kind of accepted, like, it's going to take time, I kind of just slowed down a little bit, and I kind of was a little bit more accepting of the process. And that's like my first year was like up and down. And that's how kind of the year ended. And then I just kept going. I started dating someone with 2 months clean. And he had a year though. He had a year, and that's all I listened to. 1 year clean. Mm-hmm. Coincidentally, we are still together today. But it hasn't been easy for either one of us. And like, I feel like I'm just kind of going to fast forward, because this is like my year this year. And I kind of like, you know, I think it's important to share. So, you know, I worked in treatment. We moved into a house. His parents ended up moving to Florida. They gave us their house here. And I kind of just kept going to meetings, kept doing what I was doing. You know, I worked in treatment for a long time. And about 3 years ago, I got pregnant. and I have an almost 3-year-old little girl, and she is amazing. And I don't know how, I don't know where she came from, and I don't know how she's like the happiest child in the world. But like, we're really blessed with this child because she slept out of the womb. She slept through the night. She was like, all right, I'm going to sleep for 7 hours, and I was just born. So she's amazing. But I will say, leading up to this year, for myself, I can't speak for him, but like we lost ourselves. Not in the sense of like we were using or we thought about using, we were in relapse mode. We just got on this kind of cycle of just going through the day by day motions. And, we kind of we were roommates. By 2 years ago, we were roommates and we had no life together. And, it was just like this mundane relationship. And secretly, we were both so unhappy. But at the same time, I refused to look at my side. I refused to look at my side and my part in our relationship. So everything was him. Everything was him. It wasn't my fault. And this year he was done. He was done. He came to me finally and said, like, I can't do this anymore. And my world was shattered. Cause like we lived together, we just had this kid, and like in my mind, like, in my mind, like everything was fine. And I think for the first like months, like I still wouldn't admit it. I still wouldn't admit that I played any sort of part in it. And to be honest, like I know everyone says like COVID sucks, but for me, it was such a fucking blessing because that's when it happened. Like I was already home from work. Like I wasn't working anymore because we lost our daycare and I was staying home with the kid. And, he broke up with me in the middle of it and I couldn't go anywhere because I didn't have a job. And so we lived in separate bedrooms and we kind of it was really hard for a really long time. It was really hard. But at the same time, we were still forced to spend time with each other. And forcing that time, like sitting at home and actually like not being able to like hide behind a movie or a television show, we finally like just started talking and we communicated and explained like certain things about where, like we thought we went wrong. And I admitted to him that I was selfish for a long time. And I honestly don't think if COVID didn't happen, I would be a single mom. Like I am living on my own and trying to like live life alone. Like without this, like it gave us an opportunity to like open up to each other again, like we did like the first year. And it gave us the opportunity to fix our family. And it's only been it's been probably about like 8 months since like the breakup happened. Since then, obviously it's a work in progress, but we both have decided that, this is what we want. And this is what we're going to work for and, for our family. And surprise, pregnant again. So, and that was, and you know what though? At first it was very frightening. It was frightening because I didn't want people to judge us, because there are those people out there that are like, oh, they're staying together for the baby. No, we were actually working on our relationship this entire time and accidents happen. But for me, it's not even an accident. It's a blessing because it also made us grow closer, and, and we talk all the time and like without recovery and without like what I did on my work, like on my life and who I am and step work and, finally just like kind of just putting down the bat and like saying like, all right, you're right. Like it is not all about me. I've done fucked up things too. And I'm really grateful for being able to talk about things like that and like figure that out because, it's just been, I haven't felt like this happy and just like kind of like not so wound up tight like I used to be. Like I've kind of just let everything go and I'm just a happier human. I do cry a lot, but
so do I. It's fine.
I know. It's all I do is cry. I was watching something today and I was like hysterical, and for no reason. But yeah, that's just kind of where I'm at. That's kind of been my journey. I really hope I didn't leave anything out. So yeah, I think that's all I got.
No, I learned about dance school and lesbian affair and so many things. I feel so much closer to you now, Dara.
Well, good.
I guess I'm gonna start since I always have to start.
You don't always have to. You just always decide that you are starting.
I do not. That is bullshit. I always ask if anybody else wants to start, and everybody's like, "No, just go ahead, David. We all know you want to go first." Because Eric's an asshole. Anyway, okay. So, question 1.
Okay, I guess you're going first.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm going first. That's what's happening. Fuck you. Do you think sheltering a child leads to potential problems when they're finally exposed to drugs?
Yes, I really do. I feel like it kind of has like the opposite effect of what the initial, thought is behind it.
Yep.
Growing up as sheltered as I was and not actually like seeing things that were, normal everyday things. Like everything was in sunshine and rainbows, but that's how I was raised, that everything was sunshine and rainbows. My parents hated each other. I didn't see that when I was little. They ended up getting divorced. My dad's gay now. And when I was little, I didn't see that. I said, I have the best family. I have everything I want. And it kind of sheltered me. And I think that when I had just the slightest bit of freedom, that's when I went off. And then maybe, I don't know what would have happened. I can't go back. But for me, I do believe that sheltering a kid like that, it kind of sets them up for a little bit of failure in life.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of like Catholic girl school syndrome.
Fuck you.
Dude, that's true. 100%. 100% it was shade thrown at you. I have a Jew in my ear and a Catholic to my left. I have to go with something here.
I'm to your right, by the way.
Oh, dude, you son of a bitch. You are. That is 100% correct. Go ahead, Carly. You fucking Catholic.
Okay. So, you only briefly mentioned it at the very beginning of your story about being adopted, but has that played any part? Did that play any part, you think, in your addiction?
Yeah, I really do think it did. For me, I always grew up knowing I was adopted, and I think it was kind of like a blessing and a curse because it made me always think about why was I adopted? Why was I given away? I know for me, and the work I've done with my therapist, I have a huge abandonment issue, huge. And it started there before I even knew about it, when I was a baby, the woman that you essentially lived inside for 9 months gave you up. For any child that's adopted, I feel like that's always going to be something that's going to affect them in the long run. And I feel like, yes, sometimes it's for the better. I understand that, but it's being able to work through it. And I always knew that I was adopted, but I never talked about it, if that makes sense. So my parents didn't normalize it. They didn't say this is why. It was just kind of I was kind of told my mom was basically a failure, and that's why she gave me up. And telling a child that who's adopted that their nervous system is already, running rampant with that thought of abandonment doesn't help. So I really do think it has a lot to do with it because, with my relationships throughout the years, if something, I would push people away, but then I would say why are you leaving me? I would freak out. Why are you leaving me? Everyone leaves me. And that kind of behavior made me use.
Oh, yeah.
Because I just wanted to be numb.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. I'm going to ask 2 questions. One's going to be a short, fun question. So full disclosure, when I first met Dara, I was like, this bitch is crazy, but she's definitely my people because she's my type of crazy, and hit it off from the get-go for me. So I want to know what you thought of me when we first met, Dara.
I I mean, I felt the same. Like, you were fucking crazy.
Yes.
I was like, who's this guy wearing a tie to a meeting?
Yes.
Like, what are you doing with your life? But at the same time, it was kind of like that, like, you were just so okay with yourself. And, like, I wanted that. Oh. And I wanted that, like, aura that you gave off. And, like, I was like, no, this guy knows what he's doing. And this guy's okay with himself. So I was like, I need this kind of people in my life.
It was 100% dressing up the outside.
Question.
Yes.
What part of your recovery did you meet her in?
So I think it had to be 2014.
So is this still your asshole stage?
No.
Because that's what I've been told about you in early recovery. You were still an asshole.
Eric, can I get a ruling on that? Thumbs up or thumbs down?
No, you weren't an asshole when I met you.
No.
Okay. I just was curious.
Eric gave a thumbs up, by the way. I
don't think you were.
No, 2013, I was very much an asshole. 2014.
Oh, yeah, I did hear that as well.
Yes. I was transitioning out of that asshole phase because at my second anniversary, I had like 3 or 4 different people, like lovingly in their share. They were like, we love you so much, but you're kind of an asshole, but we love you because you're our asshole. And I was like, oh, okay. And like, I really like took that to heart. And I was like, okay, this was good. And also really constructively hurting. Because I was like, I don't want to be known as an asshole. So I changed.
So you did some work on yourself.
I did some work on myself. Who knew? Okay. Now the real question.
Okay.
So they say addiction is potentially genetic. So are you, and you are both, I mean, your daughter has both sides of it. So are you worried about that potential in the future? And how have you guys talked about or prepared for that eventuality? Obviously, I know she's 3, so you have a long time.
No, it was a huge thing that I thought about, especially when I was pregnant. And I would have, the first time I was pregnant, I was like, oh my God, she's going to be an addict. What am I going to do? Like, both her parents are addicts. Like, she's going to use. And like, that was a fear. And I talked about it a lot. I shared like a lot of meetings around that time I was pregnant. I talked about it a lot, especially to women. And I've also seen women in recovery have their children bring into meetings, obviously, my best friend, her child kind of grew up in, recovery. And for me, I think that has given me such a huge example of like, I'm not going to hide it from her. I'm not going to, tell her like, oh, mommy just needs to go out for an hour to go to a meeting. Like as she gets older, I think we both kind of, in a way, will try and explain it to her as best as possible. And I think I've kind of accepted, like, it's inevitable. She is a child. She's going to grow up. She's going to be 14. She's going to drink. She's going, you know what I mean? She's going to experiment. And for me, I am not going to try and shelter that because I know what happened with me. And it's kind of like, all right, well, if this is what you're going to do, like, can you just be honest with me? And she'll understand about addiction because we'll explain it to her. And I want her to be able to talk to us. Both children is not fully cooked yet, but I want them to be able to talk to us about it and be like, I'm struggling, Mom. Like, I need help. And I think that starts when they're young. I think if you build that kind of rapport with them, like, and be open with them, that's the best thing to do. So, I mean, obviously it's terrifying because I live my life that way, and I don't want her to go through it, but it's, I think I've accepted that it may happen, and if it does, we'll deal with it.
Perfect answer. What you got, Carly?
All right. So what other ways has your addiction manifested itself in your recovery?
Ooh.
What? Shopping. Shopping a lot. But I mean, I guess.
Is that more of a female thing? I gotta ask.
No, it's not.
Oh, Eric is.
I've known a lot of men.
No, he is shaking his head. No. Okay.
I just bought a new pair of shoes last night.
Oh, he bought another pair of shoes. What do you have, like 30?
No, Garrett made me clean out my closet of shoes before I was allowed to buy another pair. So since I've cleaned them out, I've now bought 2 new pairs of shoes.
Did you throw them away or did you give them away?
I gave them away.
Okay, good girl. Okay, keep going, Dara.
No, I don't even. What is my? I mean, I think my addiction has manifested in ways that, like, I don't think that it's been like things that are hurting me. I feel like it's
like behavioral.
I really don't. I don't know. It's just made me like overly. To be honest with you, I let my disease run my brain for a long time when I got clean. So for me, I kind of wouldn't fully let it go. And for me, that was like that's how my disease manifested in my first couple of years. And I let it. And that's how I was acting out. And that's how, I mean, obviously, like, I was with shopping, like that kind of stuff. But like deep down, like, my disease was manifested like in my own self and my own self-worth. And I've always struggled with eating disorders and just kind of like in and out. Especially when you get clean, you gain like 40 pounds because you actually eat again. But for the most part, that was because I wouldn't let my disease, I wouldn't put it down. I wouldn't put things down, and I would make myself feel real shitty about myself in order to kind of, and that's how it just kind of lingered back there in my brain. Like, you're still not good enough. You're still going to fuck up somehow. And I wouldn't let anyone know that, I don't think.
Fantastic answer. All right. Now we're getting to the hard question.
Oh boy.
Yep. You can probably guess where it's going. So yeah. We have both dealt with death in recovery, especially with our dear friend Brett, who's no longer with us. Yeah. So it's two-parter. How do you deal with loss in recovery, and what advice can you give to anybody out there who is going through a situation like that currently?
Okay. I mean, like you said, death is something that everyone's going to experience, especially in this lifestyle. And it's, for some people it gets easier, and some people they don't deal with it. They just kind of ignore it. And then there's some people, I think I am that person that I feel it with my whole heart, especially if it's someone like I know. And I there's like kind of like a couple, maybe like a day or two where I'm like, why them? Like, they were doing so well. But then at the same time, after I kind of go through that process, I let myself grieve. I am not the person that's going to hide behind anything. And it's hard for me. Death, even if I didn't know them that well, like I still cry. Like it just makes me so sad. But at the same time, I understand that this is going to happen. And I also, in a way, think to myself, all right, like what was going on in their lives? What happened? And what can I get out of this situation? Like, it's like, like, people don't fully get honest about a lot of stuff, just like me, in their earliest recovery, and that's what brings them back out. So if that's what it is and that's what happened, whether it be sharing with a sponsor something or sharing in an open meeting and just kind of keeping some things locked away, I look at that and I'm like, all right, I have to, I'm struggling with something, I got to tell someone before it's too late. And, I think for me in early recovery, I kind of got through this is going to happen, and I would tell myself this is going to happen. And it has nothing to do with like the person. It has fully to do with like the disease that they're struggling with. And I think that's how I've dealt with it these years. Like, I'm just like, all right, well, their disease unfortunately got the best of them, and it sucks and it's sad. I'm going to remember them. When I was working in treatment, it was really hard because it was really hard because these were these people that I was around 24 hours a day, our clients and the patients, and then they would die, and they affect me really hard because, like, what did I do wrong? Like, what did they need that I didn't give them? And I came to learn, like, it has nothing to do with me. it had nothing to do with like that conversation I didn't have with them when they were in treatment. It has nothing to do with it. And I think accepting that early on, that a death isn't anyone's fault, is really important for me, at least. Yeah.
All right, Carly.
I don't know.
Are you reeling from that one?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'll go again.
Unless I just steal your what's your favorite step question.
Okay, you can do that. Go ahead.
All right. Well, what's your favorite step?
Oh, God.
Or the one that has been most impactful to your recovery.
Okay. Okay. I can do that one.
Okay.
I mean, obviously, I have not been the fastest step work person ever. To be honest with you, I'm just on step 8, and but the one that has affected my life the most, whether it be good or bad, was step 6. And
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah, just because I was on it for so long, I sat in that step, and I didn't see the harm it was doing to me. It was harming me in ways that I didn't even know. And the longer I sat, the worse I got. And I think that was all around the same time when, my significant other and I started having problems, because I would sit there and I have this list of defects in front of me. I was writing about them, but I had sat in it for so long that I hadn't gotten to step 7 yet. That they were just up front all the time, and I didn't know, I was aware of them, but I didn't know how to let them go. And because I was just sat in it, they got worse, and it was just awful. So for me, step 6 has affected my life, because it's almost, the steps are there to help you recover, but they're also there, to make you realize things, but you can't sit in them, and you can't, if you're not living the life of recovering, or not talking about it, and you're just kind of sitting there, it can be really detrimental. Especially for me. I mean, I have a really hard time with my self-worth. So with me sitting in my defects, it was just, but at the same time, I refused to admit that's what was going on, so I was I'm fine. Everything's great. I love life. But at home, I was fuck you. I'm so angry. I'm such a piece of shit. And, it kind of really had a huge impact on me. Thank God I've done 7, and I've been able to kind of release some of them, which has been really great. And I think that for me, obviously, because that's where I'm up, 7 was my favorite, because once I let it all go, I kind of let myself open up and get honest about where I was at. So I guess 6 and 7 affected me the most.
Love that. All right. All right. Do we have time for one more question, Eric? Okay, thumbs up. All right. So,
end it with a good one.
I will
on a happy note.
It will be a happy note.
Okay.
I plan these things out, sort of. So, how has your recovery evolved, and what does recovery mean to you?
How did my recovery? Okay, I love this question. It's a good one. My recovery, has evolved in ways that I didn't think would evolve. I have, my favorite thing about my recovery right now, where I'm at, is finally allowing myself to be a human being, and not being someone that beats themselves up for the mistakes of the past, and kind of looking forward. And that's not to say that I don't think about all the stuff I did and all that kind of stuff. But for me, up until, a year and a half ago, I wouldn't let myself feel everything. And I feel with where my recovery life was, and then, kind of working through all the stuff over the years, and kind of slowly looking at my side of certain things, and being allowed to express how how I was wrong. And, I was never allowed to do that growing up. Everything was kind of just, I was never allowed to be open. I didn't talk about my feelings. So when I was in recovery, early recovery, like I didn't really let myself tell everyone everything. And I think that over the past couple of years, I've kind of let that go. And that's been like my favorite part of my recovery so far, obviously. And you know, being a mom, I never thought it would be me. You know, I've always wanted kids, and my life was so bad, and I didn't think anyone was going to be out there to love me to give me that. And now I have a almost 3-year-old and another girl coming the way, and I'm just, you know, if without that, if without recovery, I don't think I would have that, or I would be 6 feet under. And I am just so fucking grateful for the people like in my life that have helped me get to this point. I love my kids. I love my life today. I love my dog. You know, I wouldn't be here without the steps and like just kind of surrendering. And it makes me so happy.
All right. Well, I think that's all we got. And the dog comment really hit home for Carly. She was just like, just full inner city meeting. Just share that girl. I got you. All about them fur babies.
Absolutely.
Do you want him? Do you want to borrow him? He sheds a lot.
I know. I was gonna say that. I was like, you're a crazy ass dog. She got a big ass husky.
I have a husky. He's very large.
A chocolate lab.
Yeah.
You could be besties.
I love labs. I love all dogs. I'm not even gonna lie.
Yeah, dogs are great. Eric loves dogs too. Just to throw that out there. All right. Well, Dara, you are officially off the hot seat, so we would like to thank you for joining us this evening.
Woo! Thank you so much for having me. Hey. And I promise I'll listen more.
Oh, please do. And put a bug in Molly's ear. I've been trying to get her on the podcast for a while.
Ooh, yeah. You may want to get her real soon because she's about to
burst.
Have another child. So
I know.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we would like to thank our guest for joining us this evening. And let me do my little quick sign out real quick. Oh, wait. After I tell all our lovely listeners, please come I don't know. How am I going to do this, Eric? Help us keep the mics on and become a part of the Podcast Recovery family. You can join our home group, which is our Patreon, and you can throw us a few shekels if you can to help us on our ventures of spreading the message of recovery all over the world. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. For more information about Eric, Carly, Allie, and myself, go to podcastrecovery.com. And here at Podcast Recovery, we are aiming to expand the scope of support for recovering addicts. Accessibility and convenience of helpful services is paramount to combating addiction. We work to bring the message of recovery to every addict wherever and whenever it is needed. We believe that a powerful voice of recovery should be obtainable, practical, and at the touch of a button. Every addict deserves to hear a message of hope, and Podcast Recovery is here to provide it. All right, everybody, thanks for joining us, but most importantly, everybody out there, Carly,
stay safe and stay clean.
Absolutely.